Before we move to our distinguished speakers in this panel, we'll discuss now the EU macro-regional strategies and their role for the stability and security of the regions that they cover. I think that holding such a debate this timely and would give more clarity on the role of the EU macro-regional strategies for achieving sustainable development, security and prosperity. I think that national parliaments should follow closely the debate on their future in order to see whether the member states and the EU are bold enough to give this type of cooperation the chance and potential it deserves. At this moment, Bulgaria holds the rotation chairmanship of the Danube strategy, and Estonia is the chair of the strategy for the Baltic Sea region. Let me now introduce our distinguished speakers for this session. Mr. Raul Malk, Ambassador at Large for Baltic Sea region, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Chair of the National Coordinators Group of the EU Strategy for the Baltic Sea region. Mrs. Denica Nikolova, Deputy Minister of Regional Development and Public Works of the Republic of Bulgaria, National Coordinator for the EU Strategy for the Danube region. And Mrs. Odrone Perkauskiene, I hope it's correct, Head of Division Regional Cooperation and the OSCE, European External Action Service. Now I would like to warmly welcome and give the floor to our first speaker with a little change of order, Mrs. Nikolova. Please, Mrs. Nikolova, you have the floor.
Уважаеми дами и господа,
Ladies and gentlemen, for me it's a real honor and pleasure to be invited here and to take part in the COSAC chairperson's meeting. I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity they have provided to us to be together as part of this historical, very important moment for Bulgaria, in this way contributing for the achievement of the European values in our European family. During the 11 years of membership in the European Union, in Bulgaria we realized how important it is to be part of the values and to have a common European approach. Such a common European approach, of course, covers also the four macro-regional strategies that cover four macro-regions, the Baltic Sea, the Danube, Adriatic and Ionian Sea, and the Alps. They're very important as a platform for transnational cooperation that goes beyond the European Union. These strategies represent an integrated framework in which all the member states use their common potential in order to deal with common challenges. The macro-regional strategies represent a political instrument for the coordination and implementation of a wide variety of policies at the European and at the national level, and that makes them more different as a scale in the implementation of the cooperation instruments. Their purpose is to take measures in order to overcome common challenges. For example, one of the strategies covers innovations, growth, and the bottom-top approach, something that distinguishes them from all the other approaches, because the other approaches are more centralized. So in this respect, the Danube macro-regional strategy is one of these unique approaches that gives us the opportunity for cooperation and building networks between the member states from the Danube region. The strategies has a main principle, Europe without borders, because the participation in this strategy means both the participation of member states of the European Union, also pre-accession countries and other countries that are completely outside the European Union. But we are all united by the same passion for the development of these regions. You know that all these regions have their specific features, specific characteristics. Together, we represent 1/5 of the population in Europe, the combined population of all these countries, and you know how important this is for the future of common policies. We have to take this into account when trying to attract capital and financing. The main principle of the macro-regional strategies is the principle of the 3 no's. No new financing from the European Union, no additional structures, no additional legislation from the EU. That means that the main principles of support are the already existing mechanisms and financing tools. And here we face the main strategies when it comes to the application and implementation of the macro-regional strategies, and the most important purpose of these strategies to achieve goals. Of course, the strategies are unique in themselves, but still there are some common strategies that are connected to the structures of governance, on the other hand to the financing, and of course with the political engagement. First of all, every strategy has its own structure, its own mechanism, the coordination unit, national coordinators, coordinators of priority areas. So in this context, the main challenges that we are faced with at this moment are connected to the political and coordination aspect. We need more political engagement of every member state that takes part in the strategy, and of course, recognizing this as an important strategy at a national level. We need common strategic projects that are important for the region so that we can have the necessary financing to implement those projects. Of course, we have to emphasize that the financing of the macro-regional strategies is still quite limited. We need more financing. Of course, all these strategies will develop, and we also need better coordination in order to have better governance of the capital flow, of the cash flow that comes into these strategies. Nonetheless, the macro-regional approach has its real added value. We need a better orientation of the strategies towards results. We need better implementation, better engagement of the line ministries, and of course better coordination for financing, for encouragement of dialogue and improvement of connections between the different macro-regional strategies, as well as a better surveillance mechanism. When it comes to the debate that is connected to the future of the cohesion policy post-2020 and the place of the macro-regional strategies in it, the discussions here are of paramount importance, and we believe that all these discussions should be focused on the future of these strategies. In October 2017, we took the rotational presidency of the Danube strategy. The Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union in the first half of 2018, combined with the presidency of the Danube strategy, gives us the opportunity to take part into the drawing up of the European agenda, but also to enrich our practices with new expertise by taking into account the national priorities, economic growth, creation of jobs, and improvement of territorial convergence. The Danube region is connected to the others with a number of opportunities and challenges, and we are striving at achieving an integrated approach that will lead to territorial convergence and economic development of the region. For us, the added value of the Danube region is more global, and it is connected to our partnerships and support that we receive in order to apply common projects. We have 9 common projects at a total value of 40 million euro that cover water transport, port infrastructure, energy, education, young people, innovation. Within this context, the transnational program Danube is very important, and in this way we can achieve the necessary results that will improve the application of the macro-regional strategy as a whole. We will follow the way of finding common solutions to common challenges. We will aim our discussions to two important topics from the connectivity pillar of the strategy that are of paramount importance for all the member states, especially for Bulgaria. One of the subjects is the connection to the cultural heritage and tourism, and we are going to pay special attention to the fact that 2018 has also been announced as the European Year of Cultural Heritage. This topic is strategic because it unites all the regions, it contributes to connectivity, cultural exchange, the free movement of people, capitals and goods, and it has direct connection to the goal of achieving economic growth and employment. Cultural heritage is one of our most important tools to improve the development of regional economies. It is connected to tourism, and in this way we will be able to achieve the goals of the strategy. The cultural heritage of each and every nation is a source of inspiration, of national confidence. It leads to a common understanding of the places we live in and work in. The tourist sector is very important for the GDP of each and every country. Tourism is connected also to education, security, digitization, innovative measures, and transport connectivity. I can say that in this respect, the main topic in our 7th annual forum on the strategy is the achievement of economic growth and territorial convergence through investment into tourism and cultural heritage, including through financial instruments. This forum will take place here in this very room on the 18th and 19th of October with the support of the European Commission. Within this event, we are going to have a meeting of the ministers of tourism from the Danube region, and our main goal will be to pay special attention to tourism, to cultural heritage as an element of future investment post-2020. In addition, Bulgarian presidency will ensure within the Danube strategy the improvement of its governance and coordination. Bulgaria took the presidency in a transition period, and we didn't rely on the technical support from the Danube contact unit, which had the role of a coordination structure, which means that our country has to do its best in order to ensure the future steps to be followed for the structuring of the future coordination unit. Of course, we will rely on the support from all stakeholders, including from the European Commission, so that we can implement the new approach for management of the strategy. I have to point out the results we have achieved at the national level that contributed to the further development of the strategy. I have to point out that the coordination mechanism at the national level gives the opportunity to apply all the financial tools developed at the European level, which contributes to the overall success. As a national coordinator, I take part in all the control bodies over the strategy, and this gives an additional overview of the financing, investment and implementation of strategic projects that are so important for the strategy. Here I have to also add that we have a number of projects that have already been implemented at different levels, together with different member states that also take part in the Danube strategy, and they have achieved their financing through the financial program Danube. They have a very important role for building the safety networks along the Danube River, improving the navigation, and introducing quality standards. No matter how promising the first results were, however, the Danube strategy needs a number of operational measures so that it can further develop. We can see the new challenges in front of us, and they're connected to the migration flows, global security, and terrorism. The main message from today's event and taking into account our future forum with the stakeholders that will take part, I believe that the national parliaments can also contribute to the improvement and further development of the macro-regional strategies as instrument for convergence. You have the power to create coordinated policies in order to have a sustainable and inclusive growth in the macro regions. We believe that your support will be extremely important to further confirm the added value of such initiatives. We think that in this way we can find common solutions to the common challenges connected to infrastructure, migration, demographic pressures, climate change, or other changes that we cannot envisage or that cannot be resolved by one single member state or one single region. In the end, I would like to point out that those strategies are a common ground. They unite Europe. They unite all the people. They unite all the countries that want to join the European Union. We have a number of members of states that are among and are within the context of the main priority of Bulgaria for the presidency, namely the inclusion of the Western Balkans in our work. So this is another additional instrument through which we can achieve the integration of those countries to the European family. Those strategies are an engine for achieving better goals in the implementation of all European policies, and they are yet another tool to achieve economic growth. As a conclusion, please allow me to thank all the institutions at national and European level, including the National Assembly of Bulgaria, for the coordination, for the support we have achieved in the preparation process and in the process of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Nikolova. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Raul Melk. He will introduce his views on the Baltic strategy.
Sorry. Mr. Chair and ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that macro-regional strategies during last months had such a prominent place in the European debates. We had General Affairs Council adopting conclusions last April. We had the European Parliament just last week adopting a report. We had the Committee of Regions discussing the matters, and so on and so on. So it's very good, and I can only praise the Bulgarian presidency and COSAC devoting such an important place to the macro-regional strategies here also. Implementation of EU policies in macro regions, when it brings added value. Maybe it is the shortest description of those 4 macro-regional strategies that we do. And we implement the Lisbon Treaty from 2009, where first time it was so explicitly mentioned that one of the aims of the EU also is territorial cohesion. Now about the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. This is the oldest strategy from 2009, and the idea of the strategies was first raised in the European Parliament, so parliamentarians had a significant role in the process, and I think that it also is important that in the European Parliament groups of parliamentarians from different macro-regional strategies areas follow the progress of the macro-regional strategies, and also national parliaments follow the development of the strategies. Baltic Sea strategy covers population around 85 million people around the sea. When Danube strategy is about the river Danube, then our strategy is about the Baltic Sea. This is the only macro-regional strategy which includes only EU member states. mostly small ones. We have Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and two bigger ones, or big ones, Germany and Poland. And of course, strategy cooperates with non-EU neighbors. Especially, we have a special horizontal cooperation area neighbors, and it is Norway, Iceland, Russia, and also in some matters Belarus. EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region covers the area with several other regional cooperation formats, and it is also different from other strategies maybe. We have Council of the Baltic Sea States, which plays participation in coordination of 3 areas. We have HELCOM, which is Maritime Environment Intergovernmental Cooperation Organization, and their working groups act as steering groups for our several working areas related to the environment. Then we have European Union Northern Dimension, and we also have, for example, Nordic Council of Ministers. We have altogether 17 areas covered. I will not list them all. The most important block is about Save the Sea. You see, even from the wording, Save the Sea, that the situation of the Baltic Sea is not good. It is one of the most polluted seas, and our aim is to have this sea in good environmental shape in 2021. We just had last assessment of the situation of the sea. Polluting continues, but with a lesser speed than previously. So we clearly see here from one side results. Situation is not getting worse as speedily as previously, but it is still getting towards the worse side. And that is also important to mention that our areas, we also have health, education, and tourism, and culture, and so on. They all are very close to people, and when we talk about getting closer to the people, then here it is another layer where we really deal with the matters most close to the people. And if we talk, for example, about the Baltic Sea, everybody understands it, because when you go swimming during the summertime and the sea is polluted by algae and you can't swim, it is a problem everybody sees, feels, and they see that we fight with that to get the sea really into good shape. The strategy's achievements we can find in 5 areas. First, it is policy making, policy discussions, policy contributions. Here we have good cooperation both in governmental part of society, but also in parliamentary, because we have to coordinate policies. Most of the countries of the region are so small, everything we do has something which goes over border. Even when we change taxes, it influences some cross-border trade and so on. Also, we can't clean up the sea, one small country and another small country doing something on their own. We have to do it all together. So we have a lot of policy contributions, policy discussions, and I think it is the area where we have very good results. Then actions, agreed actions by the member states, common actions, and often those actions are not only about the EU money. It is also about financing from European Investment Bank, Nordic Investment Bank, and other financial institutions from national budgets. So it's very important to combine both national financing and national actions, with actions which are financed by the EU from different EU funds. Third area of results is creating and developing networks. We have a lot of very active networks. I only mention here one, which is called ScanBalt. It has also good cooperation with other macro-regional strategies networks, and it is dealing with health and health science and such matters. They have a lot of projects and a lot of joint activities and which all contribute to the health of the people. Fourth area is initiating and implementing projects and building on their results. We have around 100 flagship projects in different areas. And of course, there are problems that you know that the projects are often a little bit short time. And it's very important to keep the policy, long-term policy running. So it's very important role of strategies to bring long-term perspective into this little bit sometimes hectic world of projects. And finally, it is communication, both to the wide population, but also to those people to make decisions, both in the public sector, but also in the private sector. We also engage a lot of private sector. From specific areas, most visible results, as I mentioned, are in marine environment protection, also science cooperation, transport, energy. And I think that today, when we are approaching 10th anniversary, not so soon, but it's coming closer, of the strategy, we can say that also wide population knows much more about the strategy than it was a couple of years ago. And here, of course, important element is our annual forums. Our strategy's next annual forum is in Tallinn, Estonia, 4th and 5th of June. We will discuss cohesion policy and macro-regional strategies after 2020, also digital development and marine environment. Some challenges. First, it is about better integration of macro-regional strategies into the big EU and member states' strategies and policies. And here we have very good connection with territorial cooperation programs. We also started from last year regular meetings between national coordinators of a strategy and the Interreg Baltic Sea Monitoring Committee. So we put policy and finances at the same table. Then one of the challenges is, of course, that we have small countries and a lot of very small participants. They don't have both money and people to participate in many projects, even if they need it. And the joint choir of all those small participants is, please give us simplification. And November 2017 ECOFIN conclusions about cohesion policy are in this regard a small step forward. Our policy areas are in different situations. Some are in the rather beginning of the cooperation, some have joint agreed working plans, and some are working full speed, preparing projects after project. So we have to get everybody to the same, the third, the highest level. And a couple of remarks in the final part of the presentation about the future. Now we approach the new programming period, and it is clear that this time we are much better prepared to contribute. Last time when MFF was agreed, macro-regional strategies were in the very beginning. We were not able to present our case strongly and be better integrated with our EU policies. Now we are better prepared. So we will look to the future. There are some things clear. It is clear that we will have a new MFF proposal, most probably in May. But for example, will we have something like EU 2030? we know our strategy is very clearly connected to the EU 2020. So it is a very interesting question, but maybe it is to the next Commission. When the MFF is discussed and other accompanying policy documents, of course, we approach the moment when the whole programming starts. And it is very important that from the very beginning, from the most important documents, the macro-regional strategies are taken into account. This period, it is regulation number 1303 from 2013, which is about 5 big funds, and where Article 27.3 states, where member states and regions participate in macro-regional strategies or sea-basin strategies, the relevant program, in accordance with the needs of a program area as identified by the member state, shall set out the contribution of planned interventions to those strategies. So we need a similar or even stronger point for the next MFF period also. And during the programming process, we have now to integrate really macro-regional strategies with all those big funds, but also with programs directly managed by the Commission. So it's a very important area for our strategy during next year or two, and it's why our annual forum in June is devoted to future of cohesion policy and macro-regional strategies. And allow me to conclude with wishes of all success to the Bulgarian presidency from the previous Estonian presidency. Thank you, and have a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milk. And now I give the floor to Mrs. Audrone Perkauskiene from the European External Action Service. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the Parliament. It is a pleasure to be here today and to have the opportunity to discuss the European Union macro-regional strategies for sustainable development, stability and security. More concretely, my presentation will focus on the European Union's regional cooperation efforts and perspectives in the Black Sea area, 10 years after the launching of the European Union's Black Sea Synergy Initiative. As you may know, following the Bulgarian and Romanian's accession to the European Union and acknowledging the importance of the Black Sea potential and its strategic location at the junction of Europe, Central Asia and the Middle East, the European Union developed the Black Sea Synergy Initiative. The Black Sea Synergy is European Union's key policy framework and contribution to the regional cooperation in the area. It aims to focus the political attention at the regional level, but also to develop cooperation within the Black Sea region and between the European Union and the region as a whole. Intended as a coherent, long-term initiative, the Black Sea Synergy complements the European Union's bilateral and sectoral activities in an effort to seize opportunities and bring increased stability and prosperity to the Black Sea region. This initiative is designed as a flexible and inclusive one, open to the participation of all states in the region, encouraging a bottom-up approach, identifying and supporting what the partners in the region want to do together is fundamental for the Black Sea Synergy. A wide variety of areas ranging from environment, transport and energy to integrated maritime policy, higher education and civil society are included in the synergy. Building confidence and fostering regional dialogue were from the beginning at the core of the strategic synergy as well. The geopolitical landscape of the Black Sea area has a unique composition with complex webs of diverse interests, aspirations, interactions, and identities. Despite this challenging situation, we have made progress in implementing the Black Sea Synergy on practical projects of interest and benefit to the citizens of the Black Sea area. And I would like to mention just a few. For example, the program of improving environmental monitoring in the Black Sea is aimed at improving the availability and quality of data on the chemical and biological status of the Black Sea. Another program, the Black Sea Cross-Border Cooperation Program, is a successful program that doubled its budget for 2014-2020, reaching almost 44 million euros, and aiming to improve the welfare of people in the Black Sea Basin through sustainable growth and joint environment protection. Another area, civil society, that remains an important stakeholder in the region. The Black Sea NGO Forum aims at creating and consolidating an open space for debate, sharing mutual knowledge and understanding, communication and cooperation among civil society representatives, governments, international organizations, and donors active in the region. I just referred to a few successful and positive examples. However, the progress in implementing the Black Sea Synergy is not as impressive as we hoped and wished 10 years ago. The important and used potential of the region is there, and the European Union is interested in making full use of it. Therefore, the time has come for a new reflection on how to take forward our cooperation in the Black Sea region and to stimulate more interest from the EU member states, for example, and also other important players. We are also reflecting on how to reinforce the coherence across the various existing and planned initiatives under the Black Sea Synergy. Also, how to provide guidance and useful platform for more cross-sectoral activities and more deliverables. Additionally, there are at least three main aspects to be further considered. Firstly, despite difficulties and tensions that exist between the countries around the Black Sea, and in full compliance with international law, human rights, and the rule of law, we need to work on and develop the regional cooperation component as a platform to address the transnational challenges of today, such as the climate change, the necessity of more competitiveness, maritime security, better education, research, and development. More concrete efforts are further needed with deepening societal ties and engagement towards youth, civil society, and business. Secondly, complementarity with the other cooperation frameworks in the region is fundamental to our Black Sea Synergy. European Union developed during the last 10 years its engagement with the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. Additionally, in the environment field, the Black Sea Commission is an important player, and the EU hopes to be a full member soon. Thirdly, the European Union's assets, the opportunities offered by Lisbon Treaty, have to be better used to ensure coherence within the internal and external EU policies and instruments. Instead of conclusion, please let me reassure that the European External Action Service values the exchange of ideas on Black Sea region, and I'm confident that today's debate will prove to be useful and will help the European Union to reboost its policy towards the Black Sea region, and that is our aim, and I believe that we can do that together. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Perkauskiene. We have 5 requests for the floor. I think it would be good that we stick to the 2 minutes, speeches. And without further delaying the discussion, I give the floor to Mr. Hjorčík, please.
Thank you, the floor, Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to highlight the success of the Hungarian presidency of the EU strategy for the Danube region in 2017, which has, I think, demonstrated the added value of the aforementioned strategy with regards to fostering a discussion on energy, security, transport development, and the green connectivity of the region. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, Hungary welcomes the Bulgarian presidency of EU strategy of the Danube region in 2018, and we stand ready to share our experience from the previous year. I think the strong cooperation between the EU strategy for the Danube region and the Danube transnational program, together with the successful transitional projects started in the Danube region, demonstrate why it is justified to increase the financial support of the EU macro-regions. Mr. Chairman, Hungary highlights support the EU cohesion policies in the 2020 period and encourages all the 14 countries of the aforementioned strategy to enlarge their national contribution within the Danube transnational program. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Hrčić. Now I give the floor to Mr. Kekec, please.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Chairman. The Republic of Slovenia is the only member state of the European Union whose whole territory is part of 3 of the 4 European Union macro-regional strategies, and is thus particularly aware of an importance of macro-regional strategy in addressing common challenges at the intergovernmental level. The National Council in Slovenia connects regions that are naturally and historically connected regardless of the state borders. Good infrastructures and sustainable development are the most important elements for their development. Therefore, this must be our common development projects. 5 countries, including Slovenia and Bulgaria, from this region propose to the European Commission to address this issue by establishing a new Alpine West Balkan Rail Transport Corridor, which is a concrete step in the realization of the Bulgarian presidency priorities in the field of macro-regional strategies. In Slovenia, considerable attention is paid to cooperation between the government, National Assembly and National Council. A position thereon was taken by the members of 3 competent committees: Committee on European Union Affairs, Committee on the Foreign Policy and Commission for the International Relations and European Union Affairs, already in the beginning of 2015. We recognize the importance of EU strategies and of the involvement of the Republic of Slovenia in an operation of macro regions and committed the government to annual report on its activities in this field. Thank you very much, and I wish you a successful presidency.
Thank you, Mr. Kekec. Now I give the floor to Mrs. Klok, please.
Strategie makroregionalne.
Thank you. Macro-regional strategies are an important part of European policy of territorial cohesion. In Poland, this is something we take very seriously. And we do also participate in the North Sea strategy, Baltic Sea strategy. Now, I have to say that Poland takes a positive view of such initiatives, and we believe that these should be supported. We should make a stronger commitment as the European Union to the Danube region, to the Black Sea, and it's also important that we support the Carpathian strategy. This will improve security on the eastern border of the EU and will stabilize the neighboring countries, and also will encourage democratic values outside the borders of the EU. That's why it's so important. I would also now like to refer to the infrastructure programs from the Polish point of view. As an important transport hub, this north-south corridor with Carpathia, these are not just national projects. These are actually pan-European investments. Investments which do provide genuine added value for European citizens, not just for countries in Central and Eastern Europe, but also for countries such as Finland, Estonia, and other Baltic countries, and those in the Carpathian region. And this is why it's the question of inland waterways is also important. We have a department for inland waterways in the Transport Ministry, and we're looking at a project to connect the Danube, the Oder, and the Elbe. This is an important inland waterway corridor, and I think that that could be the next phase for us to look at, and where we should use European funds, because inland waterways is something which makes a contribution to protecting the environment and that's important also for the development of the European Union. Thank you.
Now I give the floor to Mrs. Minzato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Romania is also a strong supporter of macro-regional strategies. We consider that sharing common space and common areas of cooperation within the EU macro-regional strategies gives us a better input on augmenting cohesion. And as one of the initiators of the EU strategy for the Danube River, we are of course fully committed to continuing implementing this strategy and supporting all types of EU macro-regional strategies. We consider a unique opportunity the fact that 3 countries members of the EU strategy for the Danube River hold the presidency of the European Council, that is Bulgaria, Austria, and Romania. We can put high on the agenda this type of instrument, which we think not only gives a better sense in augmenting cohesion and investing in common regions, but also gives chances to other countries than member states to better integrate, to develop common projects with the member states. And so this is the type of instrument we think that even we can say increases legitimacy, because the population, and I'm speaking for Romania, has a very, very good perception on this type of approach. For example, the EU strategy for the Danube River is, for its early stages, since its early stages, well perceived. People are interested to participate, so not only the government, but also the society can become a supporter in implementing projects that are included in this type of macro-regional strategies. Of course, we consider that it is very important that not only the member states invest in the priorities, more in the priorities of these strategies, but also that the European Commission should assume an increased and proactive level in the coordination and stimulation of the cooperation in these strategies. More Directorate Generals than DG Regio maybe should be involved in supporting the implementation of these macro-regional strategies. And we should try to increase the links between these strategies and EU funding sources besides the SC funds, of course. To conclude, Romania adheres to the vision that EU macro-regional strategies should be better connected with all EU policies and instruments in order to ensure an increased contribution to all EU objectives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Minzato. And now I give the floor. Сега давам думата на господин.
Now I give the floor to Mrs. Evelina Vasileva. Thank you very much, Mr. Vigenin. Those strategies support the achievement of the strategic goals of the European Union for consensus and sustainable development. They're very important at present in this political moment because they contribute to achieving the regional cooperation even with countries outside the European Union. Those countries have better connections with the European Union, and in this way we alleviate certain negative consequences coming from outside. Bulgaria is both by the Danube and the Black Sea. That's why we support completely those macro-regional strategies, and we can even recommend to have more clear targets in those strategies. We understand the connectivity between cohesion policy and macro-regional strategies. It is not by chance that one of the main priorities of the Bulgarian presidency is our work on increasing the visibility of the Danube region and the Black Sea region, including through their better connectivity by using completely the potential of the macro-regional strategies. Other important priorities are increasing the connectivity in transport, communications, and digital infrastructure. What is important for us is that Bulgaria is presiding over the Danube strategy. We hold the presidency of the Council of the European Union. We are going to be followed by Austria, which means that we are going to work together in order to provide better content and to look for additional sources of financing for all projects in the Danube strategy. Until the middle of 2019, the Council of the European Union will be presided by another country that is a member of the Danube strategy, namely Romania, and it was together with the efforts of Bulgaria and Romania that the Black Sea strategy started. The new reactivation and turning the Black Sea synergy into a main tool for the development of this region can lead to other positive processes. This synergy can be the foundation for new political initiatives. We can have very good discussions in this respect during the Austrian presidency when we talk about the good connectivity between the Danube region and the Black Sea region, and it can continue during the Romanian presidency. I'm very happy that we are starting this debate because it can contribute to the security in Europe. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vasileva. You opened the debate in the morning. Now you took the floor last.
Give the floor very briefly to our distinguished speakers for some final remarks on this panel. Please, Mrs. Nikolova, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Vigenin. I believe that by way of conclusion of today's discussion, we must stress that we have to put forward even more effort to enhancing macro-regional strategies by a few very simple steps. I believe that those steps are recognized by all of us as the main principles, and we will try to imbue with more action the strategies in the next period. One such step will be improved communication and improved joint coordination mechanisms. Synergy is an important principle between the institutions, but also on the macro-regional level. There are 4 macro-regional strategies, and we're hoping to achieve such a macro approach in the general development of our regions. We must seek opportunities to get more funding in order to achieve our strategic goals and to implement our strategic projects that can be very important in the overarching European goals and objectives. And of course, we need the very high political will and commitment on all levels so that those strategies can really yield good results and success. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Nikolova.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 remarks. First, as you saw around the table, both Danube strategy and Baltic Sea strategy and also the Black Sea synergy presented here and the national parliamentarians' presentations, we all moved to the same direction. We share approach, and that is very good. That the community of macro-regional strategies, I can say so, we share the opinions, we don't argue so much, we look how to do things better in the future. And the second point is about the future. When you will discuss different national plans and programs for the next period, please in the parliaments also look to the needs of better integration between those programs and macro-regional strategies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milk. And now, Mrs. Perkauskiene, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Ambassador Malk spoke in depth about the European Union's Baltic Sea strategy, but please allow me to make one point. No, not that long ago, in the 90s, the political futures of the countries around the Baltic Sea were very much uncertain. Since then, we have made great advantages and advances in terms of regional cooperation on a wide variety of sectors. And the most important lesson learned from the Baltic has been that we can solve common challenges through cooperation, even in politically difficult times. So please allow me to emphasize that we should not be afraid to look for best practices and see if we can implement some of the lessons that we've learned walking on and around the Baltic Sea, Danube River, etc. And we can use this in the context of Black Sea region and vice versa. So I would encourage to take stock of the lessons learned and best practices and to apply it for our strategies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkauskiene. This way we are at the end of our agenda for this panel and for our meeting. I will skip my concluding remarks because it's not time to conclude. We just started the parliamentary dimension of the presidency of the Council. We have a number of meetings of other parliamentary committees, and first is the meeting of the Foreign Affairs and Security committees, which will take place in February. There are a number of other committee meetings. And in June, together, we will conclude the work of the Bulgarian presidency, and we'll conclude also the parliamentary dimension. We have started a very fruitful debate, and I thank all of you for the lively debates, for your participation in this meeting. And before we finish, I really would like to thank our interpreters and our staff and all the people that were involved in the preparation and organization of this meeting. We, together with them, made it a success. Before I finish, I would like to remind you that you should not forget your belongings. Please take them with you. To remind you that the buses will, to your hotels will be waiting for you outside the building, and that will happen after the lunch. Now I close the meeting and I invite you to the lunch. Thank you very much again for your presence.